Hey there. Today we are kind of covering the capstone of the last several streams that I've done oriented around the original topic, which was how could I use action strings in Dorico. And I've got this basic template set up here. Let me switch over here and just play it for you in case you have not seen the other videos. Let's just take a second. So I've got this phrase-based string part happening off of these chords. And I'm going to kind of get into the final topic today, which is playback templates. So far in this series, we've talked about creating your own instruments, creating expression maps to define the key switches and such that your instrument needs to interpret the score. We talked about playback techniques and playing techniques. That's all in there. And then last time we talked about endpoints, and endpoints are where you take an expression map filled with playback techniques and you kind of fuse it to a specific instrument so that Dorico always knows that when you load, a cello, what should that cello be able to do in terms of key switches. Playback template, which we're going to talk about today, is really bringing a bunch of endpoints together into really like a full functioning template. So you can have something that actually you can load a whole ensemble of instruments in Dorico's setup, like, you want a violin, you want a flute, and you want an oboe. And then the playback template's going to load your favorite instruments it doesn't have to all be the same library, which is one of the big pluses. And it's going to load its expression maps and everything. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I do keep my eye on the corner here because I got my latency cache monitor. So if I look off in the corner, don't be too concerned. So why do you want to use playback templates? Let's just cover that very quickly. The most important thing is you want to have control over the instruments that are used. Now, if you have Dorico Pro, then you have Halion Symphonic Orchestra. Halion Symphonic Orchestra is great for sketching. I sometimes will use elements of it in layering, but my other libraries like Berlin Orchestra, even some of the native instrument stuff, I have a couple of contact libraries that I really prefer to use for specific lead instruments like cello, viola, something like that. I want to be able to bring those into my template, and those are the instruments I want to use seriously, right? I'm not always going to be using Halion Symphonic Orchestra. So you need a way to decide what ensemble you really want. And I'm going to show you kind of some of the things that I use. But of course, the whole idea here is the playback template allows you to customize, cherry pick your favorite cello, your favorite flute, your favorite oboe, your favorite bass drum, whatever, and bring it all in to one playback template, and you can just reload it at any point in time. So that's the main reason you want to use them. You can quickly try different ensembles. That's another cool thing. So if you wanted to write a piece of music, but you wanted to listen to, how does this sound through Halion Symphonic Orchestra? And then how does it sound through my symphony series from Native Instruments? Or how does it sound through my Berlin Orchestra from Orchestral Tools? Or whatever. You can actually just quickly change it. You can take the same exact score and quickly load up that whole playback template and listen to it and be like, oh, I like the flute better from this collection, and the cello better from this collection. Then you can build your own playback template to suit. You can also share. So this is a nice aspect of using playback templates, is once you've created your playback template, you can actually share them, and that's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's get into a demo here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just scratch what I have here behind me, and I'm going to create just a very basic Halion Symphonic Orchestra based template. Okay, so let's go ahead to setup, and I'm just going to get rid of both of these. So I'm just clicking this little trash can icon here. I always, if I'm getting rid of an instrument for good, definitely want to get rid of the player and the parts. Okay, so let's go ahead and before actually, what I wanted to do, just because it's maybe helpful at this particular moment, is show you how to set your defaults. If you go into your preferences and you go to play, what you'll find here at the top is default playback template. Now I've created my own here. These are some options that are built in, but this Will's master playback template is going to be the default that loads when I create a new project. So you can set once you've kind of gathered how to create your own playback templates from this live stream, then you can go ahead and create your own favorite and use it as your default playback. But that's the template that's going to be going as I go ahead and add instruments here. So I'm just going to add some very simple things, right? I'm going to do, I will add a flute. I'm going to add a oboe, and I am going to add a violin. All right, or viola in this case. Okay, so I've got my 3 little instruments here, and let's go see what my default template loaded up. I'll go to, oops, not there, the play mode, and I'm going to go into the VST and MIDI tab, and I can see, oh, I've still got action strings loaded up. I've got my old solo cello and Stradivari cello. None of those are being used. Those were from the action strings and violoncello that were in here before that I deleted. I'll explain a little bit better how to get rid of these, but it did create this viola here. So what's going on? Well, my guess is that on the viola, I'm getting sound. On the oboe, I'm getting more of the same. Check this out. If we go to Track Inspector, the flute is not assigned to anything. The oboe is not assigned to anything, but the viola is assigned to Berkeley solo viola. All right, which is loaded up here. So it's not using these other things, and it doesn't even know what to load for flute and oboe, and that's because my playback template doesn't know. But I'm going to just go to playback template here. I'm going to clear out all 4 of these. Now this is the preferred way to get rid of old instruments, right? So these 3 instruments over here were here in my previous project, even though I got rid of action strings and I got rid of the cello. They stay in there, and that's kind of a bummer because, you know, they could be hogging resources that I need. So if I go ahead here, I do have Dorico Pro. I'm going to go with Halion Sonic SE and Halion Sonic Orchestra, or Halion Symphonic Orchestra here, Pro. Just a quick note, these little icons here, these mean factory. I guess these are like very simple icons for factory. These are factory. You can't really manipulate them. You can create copies of them here and customize a copy, but you can't really mess around with these defaults. But what I want to show here is, okay, I've got no flute and I've got no oboe. That's because my default playback template, which is called Will's Master Playback Template, if we look in there, we're going to find that it's got things like strummed acoustic, picked nylon. There's no flute and there is no oboe in here. We've got some violins, we've got some cello, right? But we don't have flute and oboe. So let's make sure that what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the HSO Pro, and I'm going to hit apply and close, and it's going to actually kill all of these, and it's going to load up the ones that I need. So watch this. It might take a second to do this. It's spinning. There we go. So it loaded up an instance of Halion Sonic. You'll notice that it got rid of the other 4 that were there, and that's the preferred way to clean out the debris that might build up here. You cannot always just go in and select an instrument and delete it one off. But by reloading your playback template, you're basically going to throw all your VST instruments out and then reload. Now let's see what's happened here. So it loaded a flute combi, flute, oboe, and viola, all in Halion Sonic. So now I get my flute. Sorry. My oboe. And I get my viola. So what's happened here is, let's just expand this out. Go to flute. Flute is talking to Halion Sonic. That's the VST instrument that it wants to use. You can see the flute. I'm going to try and zoom in a little better so you can really see this corner. So the flute is using Halion Sonic. So is the oboe. So is the viola. The difference is the MIDI channel, right? So viola is using channel 3 here. Oboe is using channel 2, flute's using channel 1. And if I open up Halion Sonic, we can see channel 1 is my flute, Channel 2 is my oboe. Channel 3 is my viola. How did Dorico know to load up an instance of Halion Sonic and fill it with these three? That's what the playback template tells it how to do. That's exactly what a playback template does. So if I wanted to hear what this same trio sounds like through my Berlin Orchestra library, then I could go to play, go down to playback template, and repeat this whole process. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this playback template, which I actually downloaded, I think, from Steinberg's website. This has orchestral tools libraries and native instruments libraries along with HSSE and HSO as fallback. We can edit or just take a look at it and see what's in here. So we got really a whole bunch of Berkeley stuff. It is important to understand that these listings here in playback template will trigger in order, right? So in other words, first it's going to load choir, and then it's going to go to it's going to successively go through these. But by the time it gets to HSSO, if woodwinds have already been filled, it's not going to fill them with HSSO. So that's important to understand. The order of these is important, and it's always a pretty good idea to have an auto at the bottom, which you can do right here, add automatic, some kind of catch-all, some kind of like, if one of my instruments was not instantiated by one of the previous entries, have some kind of like Uber catch-all that's so that, you know, no matter what instrument you add, you're going to get something. But there's often the case that, you know, maybe HSSO doesn't have a bass clarinet. I don't actually know if it does because I haven't used that before. But let's say it doesn't have a chimbasa or a bass clarinet or something kind of, you know, that not all libraries have like that. Then, and you have you have a library collection that you know has every orchestral piece there is. Then you could put that as an auto to make sure that if the previous ones in the list didn't catch it, then you got a catch-all that will. All right, so that's now, that was me just taking a quick look at what this playback template is. But now I'm going to hit apply and close on the orchestral tools, NI, Berkeley, and HSO. And we're going to see once again that my VST instruments here change. It might not let me switch the tab there. Oh, there we go. So now we've got Berkeley flute, Berkeley oboe, Berkeley solo viola, and it's connected them all up. So now my flute's connected to flute. My oboe is connected to oboe. My viola is connected to viola here. So I've still got the sounds. There's my flute, my oboe. I've got my viola. But this time we're using the Berkeley, the orchestral tools, Berlin Orchestra library. If I were to let's try another playback template that I know does not have anything in it, like my machine template here. Let's see what machine has. Machine just basically has one endpoint. This list, by the way, where it says entries, these are all endpoint configurations. And if you're not sure what endpoint configurations are, then you should go and check out my endpoint configurations or creating and using endpoints, I think, video, which I did last time. And that'll explain what an endpoint is. But essentially an endpoint is a unit of information in Dorico that links an expression map with a particular instrument so that you can load multiple endpoints to kind of stack them all, throw them in a bucket together, call the playback template. And then when you've got these three instruments in your project, flute, oboe, and viola, your playback template goes through and it says, goes through that list of entries. And it says, you know, oh, I need a flute. And this first entry, oh, it's got a flute. And these are the constraints. This is the instrument. This is the expression map with all my key switches and all that, right? Okay, so you can see here that you can use playback templates to try different ensembles or see how the same music might sound through a different library. Like, let's say I don't have Spitfire's BBC, let's say core, or some other libraries out there. I do have some rather unique ones that I have loaded in my hybrid trailer. My hybrid trailer one, I think I have like restrung and action strings and stuff like that in it. So you can actually create playback templates that represent a collection of instruments, and then you can just quickly reload them Dorico takes care of all the work as long as your endpoints and your expression maps were configured correctly to begin with. Then you can take your piece of music and you can listen to it through Note Performer. If you use Note Performer, then you could listen to it through your NI libraries, and then you could listen to it through your Spitfire libraries. And it's as easy as just selecting a new playback template and hitting apply and close, and then you can listen to your music. And that's a great way to figure out which libraries you really like, right? Like just download a free MIDI composition of a Mozart piece or something, or just some sort of simple orchestral piece. Just load it up as long as it's got a bunch of instruments in it, and then load up all your NI instruments and listen back, and you'll be like, oh yeah, I really like the quality of the flute here, or the quality of the tuba, or the quality of the trombone, and you make a note of it. And then load up your orchestral tools, maybe factory library from Contact 7 or something like that. And you might discover like, oh, actually, I really like the way the double bass sounds there, or the clarinet. Then you load up your Spitfire, and so on and so forth, making notes. You come up with your favorite list. These are my favorite instruments. You put them all together in a playback template. So let's talk very quickly about how you build a playback template, because I don't want this to go on forever. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to say, okay, let's say that I just want to start from scratch. I'm going to create a new playback template. Just as a reminder, I got to this through the play menu up here. You click on play, go down to playback template. Okay. And let's say I want to create a new one. I'm going to go ahead and hit this plus sign. And now I can call it whatever I want. I'm going to call this my faves. And I'm going to come down here now, add automatic. These are basically ones that are going to be good catch-alls. I'm going to go ahead and select HSO just to make sure that I've got something that'll be a good catch-all. I know, for example, that I really like, let's say, noir felt for my pianos. If I wanted to see what's actually in noir felt, I could click this button here. It says endpoint configurations. Come down to where it says noir felt, and I'll see that noir felt will load on anything that is a piano single player in my project. So if I go back to setup in Dorico and I add a single player piano, and then I load this new my faves playback template, it's going to load noir felt, which is a Native Instruments library. So I like noir felt. I really like Stradivari cello. Let's just go with those as a quick demo. Now, space template, if you have Dorico 5 and you're interested in using specific reverb spaces, you can choose that here. Default, probably what I would go with. Family overrides and instrument overrides are very interesting. If I wanted, for example, to make sure that I always used piano from HS, actually a better example would be, let's say that I always wanted noir felt to run piano no matter what. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. What this would do is it would say, okay, even though we know it goes from top to bottom, right? So even though HSO probably has a piano, noir felt is going to override. So even if a piano has already been filled by a previous instrument in the entries list here, I'm selling it. No, always override. Noir felt must always run my pianos. And I could say Stradivari, that's always got to run my cellos. I think it's violoncello, no? Where is that? Where is cello? Oh, I've got Stradivari cello added as an instrument, but I could also go through and make sure that Stradivari cello gets loaded for violoncello as well. And like I said, you can always come through here, you can click endpoint configurations, and you can look at a particular thing, see what instruments are involved from your library. These are basically endpoints, and you can see what they would link to in your staff, right? In your actual setup list of instruments. Okay, so I've got this my faves. It's got some instruments. Generally, it's good policy to go ahead and move your auto to the bottom because it's a catch-all. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm going to hit, well, I'll close that for now because I don't have a cello and I didn't have a piano. So let's go back to setup. And I'm sorry if this is going a little long. This is just the nature of these things. You know, I want to go as quick as I can on the one hand, but I also want to give you useful and thorough information. I'm going to go ahead and add some comments later on so that people can skip around these videos better, some chapters rather. Cello, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and add violoncello. All right, so now I've got a piano and a cello. It probably went ahead and, let's see, under piano, it added grandeur. That's because that's what's listed in my wills under preferences. Under play, under default playback template, I have Will's master playback template. And under Will's master playback template, a piano should be grandeur. Sorry, I'm trying to zoom in. So that's why it loaded grandeur. And under violoncello, it loaded solo cello. But I actually want to use Stradivari cello and I want to use noir. So if I come up here and I go to play menu and playback template, and I go down to my faves and I hit apply and close, it'll take a second to load up. And what we're going to find is that piano now, oh, there it is. Piano says noir felt. Now it's grayed out because it's still loading the instrument. We all know if we work with libraries that it takes a little while for that to load up. We'll see that violoncello now, oh, actually this looks like violoncello is still tied to Halion Sonic. So I'd have to look back at my playback template why that is. I don't want to waste a lot of time looking at that. But it is a good idea when you create your playback template to make sure that you go back and check that everything works exactly the way you want. So we've got flute and oboe. Piano goes to noir felt, and viola and violoncello are all going to Halion Sonic. If I were to look at Halion Sonic, I'd find that flute, oboe, violoncello, and viola are all loaded in there. We can see the MIDI channel numbers directing them, but my piano is noir felt, and that's because that's what I had set up in my faves. All right, I'm at 22 minutes now. This is crazy long, and I apologize for that. I hope it's been helpful. Please like and subscribe if you found this video useful. I am happy to answer questions, so post questions in the comments. And thank you so much for watching my video and supporting my channel. In the next live stream, I'll find something really useful to talk about, and I look forward to hearing from some of you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Bye.